I want to start by sharing a quote from Rick Rubin, and this is what he said. The ability to look deeply is the root of creativity, to see past the ordinary and mundane and get to what might otherwise be invisible. I really liked that quote. And the reason I did is because what he's saying is actually super important. What we want to do is awaken that ability that we already have to remain aware. So not to go through the day and shut out everything that's around you, but actually to pay attention, because that is going to increase your creativity.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia Amante. I'm a women's fiction author and here today to talk about creativity and remaining aware. Lately in California, it's been raining a lot. We've had just a lot of rain, a lot of heavy showers, and I was sitting in my office one morning just looking out of the window and seeing the dark clouds, knowing that more rain was coming. They looked kind of cool, right? Because created this blanket of dark, various shades of gray, right, clouds up in the sky. Now, normally, I really wouldn't notice them, right? I would just go through the day. But because I was thinking about that quote and thinking about how being aware is so important to writers, I actually looked out and paid attention. And then I thought, right after that, well, I guess this means I'm not going to be walking my dogs today. This means I'm going to have to get a jacket before I go out because it's probably going to be a little chilly, right? Maybe I need to pack my umbrella. And then I had the thought that maybe I don't need to go out at all. Maybe I can just stay in, grab a good book, enjoy listening to the rain for the day. So the first thing that happens with awareness is that we notice, right? We notice whatever is around us. And the next thing that we do is that we interpret it. What does that mean to us? The thing is that most of the time what we do is we do notice, right? We notice something, but we quickly jump to the interpretation. And as writers, what we need to do is spend more time in that awareness stage, right? So take that moment to actually look at the clouds, to notice them, to admire them, to see the various shades of gray in the clouds, right? Spend more time actually looking at something, analyzing them, enjoying them before we go to the interpretation of what does this mean? I need an extra jacket. I need my umbrella for the day, right? So as writers, it will help our creativity if we spend a little bit more time just being aware before we start to interpret what things mean. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, is that creativity comes from paying attention. Now, I know that, and yet I resist it, and I think we all do, right? Who wants to sit around looking at clouds? We have things to do from the day, right? We know it's like, okay, yeah, it's cloudy, I need my umbrella, I need my jacket. But what you want to do is actually pay more attention, spend more time doing that, because creativity comes from being able to pay attention to the things that are going on around you. So the reason why is obvious. Readers expect us to be able to describe things to them, and we can't do that, right, if we are not paying attention, if we're not taking the time to look at things and maybe write down, what does it look like today? What are the feelings that these clouds are giving me? Interpreting them, how long they've been there, how much water is going to be running down the hill, whatever, right? So just paying attention, taking those few moments to maybe write down a description of what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, because eventually that is what readers are going to want when they read your book, right? When they read your stories, they're going to want those descriptions. They're going to want those emotions that come with what they're reading. And you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to transfer that feeling that you had, whatever you were looking at, whatever you were experiencing, to a story. So what Rick Rubin was saying about paying attention to the mundane, the invisible, is that as writers, what we want to do is exactly that. What seems common, what seems unimportant, we should pay attention to that, because what we're doing when we're writing is we're actually translating the common, the mundane, to a story. Things that most people don't notice, but they do notice, right? They notice it, they just don't spend the time to really think about it. And so when you write about it, it reminds them of something that they feel comfortable with, something that they're familiar with. From describing the dark clouds, they will be transported back to a time when they saw that, even though they didn't pay the attention to it, even though they didn't notice the different white and gray and darkness in the clouds, or the different shapes that they have. When you describe them, they will remember seeing that. And so you're transporting them back to a memory, back to what is familiar to them. So to be better writers and to be more creative, we have to pay more attention, and we have to be able to see what we see every day and see something different and unique in that. Okay, and then another reason, or another unintentional consequence, I guess, of paying attention is that we actually become better at describing. So the more we notice the things around you, the more aware you are, the more creative you'll naturally be. So you will actually notice things more. You'll actually be able to describe things more. It'll become sort of second nature. Well, you'll start to notice things and think of them in descriptive ways, right? So you'll see the clouds, and you'll think about their colors and their shapes, and you know what it would feel like to actually go outside and stand in the rain. Maybe you haven't done that since you were a child, right? And think, you know, I haven't done that in a while. I wonder what it would be like. Probably not. Most of us don't really want to go stand in the rain, but maybe you do want to. Maybe you just want to go out there. I just saw J-Lo's new musical movie that she made, and she has this whole scene where she's dancing in the rain, and how cool that looks, right? So it's something that looks really cool in a movie, or might be really cool in a book. And though we may not want to do it, it might be an interesting thing for us to go out and experience it and feel it, because what you're doing is you are getting all that sensory descriptive language by experiencing something yourself and then being able to write about it. And I think this is especially true with anything that has to do with nature, because it naturally engages our senses. But this takes practice. It's not like it's going to be, we have to force ourselves at first to go out there and notice and pay attention to the mundane, to the ordinary, and write about it, because it's going to take practice. It's not something we commonly do, right? We go along our day, we're busy to go to work, we're taking our kids to school, we're running our errands, and it's not something that we're going to say, oh wait, let me notice the asphalt in this parking lot. Let me notice a light that's flickering above my head when I'm parking. It's not something you're going to stop and think about, but if you practice long enough, actually you will. You'll start to think, okay, I'm parked here. Let me just take 30 seconds just to look around for a second and see what I notice. My gym, where I go 3-4 times a week, there are, I think, sparrows that have decided that they're going to make their homes above the entry of the gym. So, you know, at first I didn't notice them. They were just birds that were just flying around. And then one day I looked up and I noticed that they had built all these homes up there, and that's why there are so many birds flying over my head as I walk into the gym. And then it was really kind of cool to look at that and to see all the work that they've done to create all this. Now, the gym doesn't think it's cool. they can't take it down, or they can, but they have to wait until the season is over and then they take it down. You know, they're not too happy about that. But it looks really cool, and it's nature, and it's awesome, right? And so just to be able to notice that, just to stop for a second and see what's going on around you, you might be surprised at something that's really kind of, it's nature, and you get to experience it, and then hopefully maybe someday write about it. And the third reason that you want to pay attention, that you want to be aware of your surroundings, is exactly that, because the reason we're doing it is to write. So keep these notes that you make, these descriptions that you write, these observations that you make somewhere. You can call it an observation notebook. I mean, that's something as simple as that, right? So that you can go back to it, because it's not that you're going to describe a cloud in isolation in a story. However, you may use it. There may be a character that is having to run across a lot on a rainy day, and you can describe the clouds, and maybe not even describe the clouds, but maybe just describe the feelings that they gave you, the sadness, the desire to not be outside, to be inside in a nice warm bed reading a book, right? So use keep all those notes, keep all that information somewhere so that you can return to it at some point and maybe use it, maybe not, but it's a great exercise to do. But eventually you'll notice that some of this stuff starts to make its way into your stories. And lastly, the reason that you want to remain aware and be perceptive is that it can spark your imagination, right? So you might not go back and just pull something out and say, oh, I'm going to use this in my current story. It might actually spark a brand new idea. You might notice something, you might see something, you might see a person doing something, you might notice an animal that you wouldn't have, and it might actually spark a story, right? You might think of, oh wow, you know, I could write about this. I could write this sci-fi story about these clouds coming in and not going away. And you know, I'm not a sci-fi writer. I can't be very creative there. Whatever might happen, right? These clouds might descend on the town and something horrible might happen. But you know, I love reading. I don't write those types of books, but I love reading these books or fantasy books. And I'm always, you know, I guess I admire and amazed at some of these writers, the creativity that they have. Well, where do they get that from? They get that from real life. They observe things. They pay attention to marine life. They pay attention to what animals do, and then they are able to transfer that into you know, a creative story that they write. So that is the last reason. So remaining aware is really a great gift that we have as creative writers. We're given this whole world to pay attention to, and if we do, and then we tuck it away somewhere, it can help us with the stories that we write. So hopefully this has helped. If it has, please hit the like and the share button and come back and see me next week.